That's a loud thing. I lived my first 12 years between Shea Stadium and LaGuardia Airport.
Oh, my God.
So,
okay, yeah, that'd be loud.
Yeah, I was pretty much immune to it by the time I was a teenager. So,
yeah, when I worked at Boeing years ago, our lab for a long time, the building was literally right next to the taxiway at Boeing Field.
wow.
The South Seattle one, and literally they're doing engine run-up testing right outside the building, so the whole building would shake.
Oh my gosh,
That's cool.
It was not a really conducive for work environment.
Yeah, I guess after a while you just get immune to it. You don't notice it anymore.
Yeah, true. I once almost hit a 747 with my car
no.
because you had to drive down the taxiway to get to our building.
Oh my God.
And we're working 7 by 24 because the equipment is god awful expensive and people are cheap. So at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, I'm supposed to be driving out through the special zone where cars can go to get I had to go under a 6-lane road and come out on the other side, and eventually I could get to a gate to get out of the complex. And lo and behold, it's foggy out. Surprise, surprise, it's Seattle. And the 747 that they were towing to one of the hangars because it had an electrical failure, they didn't exactly park it in the right spot. They had the wing hanging over the path I'm supposed to be driving down, and I'm basically just have my foot off the gas and letting the car idle along. I was like, what the hell is that? Oh my God, slam on the brakes, and it's like, yeah, imagine your insurance company, you call them and say you hit a 747.
Oh my God. So the landing gear took the roof off my car, and oh my God, it was so frightening. They're like, sure, Mr. Piatz, I'm sure that's exactly what happened. So did the cop have you blow the breathalyzer or not?
Yeah, and you know how many years I'd had to, they would have had to make me an employee for life and given me a big raise so they could withhold enough money to cover it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
God.
But as it was, I didn't actually hit it. I just came really close.
Oh man, that'll shave 5 years off your life.
Yeah, well, they, knowing how safety is supposed to work there, and all that kind of stuff. There should have been all kinds of market lights around this thing, but somebody kind of was asleep at the switch in the fog.
Mm-hmm.
Probably was thinking there wasn't going to be any cars on the throughway.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, not a lot, except there should have been security people going by frequently.
Yeah.
For example, and they should have noticed and called it in if they didn't see the marking. So whatever.
Yeah. Crazy.
Hey, different times.
Yep. So, how long have you been in Minnesota now?
That's the longest I've lived anywhere. I've lived here since 40 years. Mostly of 40 years. I've gone for stretches, but, a long time.
Wow. Has it ever warmed up in the whole time you've been there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's like right up there with, has it ever dropped below 60 degrees where you live, Manny? Ever?
Nope.
Yeah. Hamish was grousing about 55 being damn cold the other day. It was like, really?
I think the coldest I've ever seen was 38 below, and the hottest I've ever been in is 117 above.
Yeah. Yep. Hottest I've ever seen is
117 wasn't here, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, not there.
That's more like Arizona. Yeah.
Well, actually, I think I was in the Dakotas then.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but yeah, I've been pretty hot. I've been right around the same temperature in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping that I'm going to be in northern Arizona and Santa Fe for different parts of this coming week, and I'm hoping that because I'm in the northern parts of the state that it won't be like ungodly hot like it is down in Phoenix or Albuquerque. So
yeah, it should be a little better with the elevation.
Yeah, they're saying temperature projections are looking like high 70s, low 80s, and I'm like totally okay with that. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah, and probably
120 here.
Yeah, and probably a single digit relative humidity.
Oh yeah,
very low.
Yeah, which I've noticed does make a pretty big difference. It's still damn hot, but it's not quite as oppressive as it is when it's 90% humidity like it is back home. So
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, I
goldfish
can't say I'm missing the North Carolina summer too awfully much.
It's kind of like, I spend months in Florida in the wintertime, and, it's like, talk to the people down there, what do you do in the summer? It gets really brutal as well. Yeah, nobody wants to be here in July and August.
Nobody wants to be there in the summertime.
Yeah.
No, I live inside. I just don't go out.
Yeah, I don't either in the summer in North Carolina. I just go from air-conditioned space to air-conditioned space as much as possible because it's just too oppressive to bear. But, Steve, if you're down there in the winter, I'll have to hunt you up. We're talking about spending part or maybe all of January down in the Keys with the trailers, so maybe we can connect up if you're down in southern Florida.
Yeah, we're usually in Fort Myers.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we fell in love with a little place on Ohio Key, a little RV park there that's just great, and we just totally went head over heels for the Keys in general, but in winter, not in summer, because it's just too busy the rest of the time.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot less crowded in the summer.
Yes, it is a lot less crowded in the summer, but it wasn't terrible. We were there in March right after the Mazer Cup, and it wasn't terrible, was it, Hamish?
It really wasn't. It was quite lovely.
It was quite nice. Yeah, the weather was great. It wasn't overrun with tourists. Even Key West was relatively, for Key West, uncrowded.
Wow.
So,
I haven't been in Key West in a long time, and that can be just nuts.
Oh yeah.
With tourists because of now they're pulling cruise ships in and
it was we
they're
must
doing
have caught
charter.
it. What's that?
They do charter excursions now from Key West to Fort Myers.
Oh really?
Day trips.
Well, that might be fun.
Yeah.
We're planning.
Assuming the weather's good, it could be it could be great if you get a windy day. It could be a little seasick prone.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me none. I got a cast iron stomach.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't get seasick, or at least I've never gotten seasick. Is probably a better way to say it, because every time I've gone out on a bouncy boat ride, it doesn't bother me, unless I'm in an overheated space. As long as I'm out in the wind, I'm fine. Yeah. But
that always helps.
We'll have to try to connect, because I got a cousin that does charters down there. So if you're a fishing person, maybe we can pull some together.
I see a meeting forming.
I do too. And Manny's right up in Miami, so we can lure him away. And
doesn't matter how close Manny is, you can't lure him away.
Sure, I can.
It didn't work last time.
We didn't try all that hard. Besides, they offered to cook. What were we supposed to say? So, when was it that you got? I know you got learned about mead doing the BJCP training thing in Minnesota. So that wasn't 40 years ago, though, right? How long ago did you start learning about mead?
Oh, the early days of mead were, we had a group of us in the early 90s. We're all teaching ourselves how to pass the BJCP exam, because there were very few BJCP judges then, and none that we knew, and we knew nobody that knew anything about the test, and so we're all kind of teaching ourselves. And one of the guys brings some mead, and some of these weren't, let us say, spectacular, probably actually pretty terrible by today's standards. But, he had clever names like 4x4, 6x6, 8x8. Well, that was like how many pounds of malt extract and how many pounds of honey went into a 5-gallon batch.
So you were making Uber brackets, man.
Yeah, and then they were pretty cloyingly sweet and pretty fusily, but, oh, wow, we could try that. And we, with no guidance, no idea what we're doing. Of course, most of them turned out to be just like that. Eventually, I think it was 94, something like that, at an AHA conference in Denver, Ken Schramm and Dan McConnell, his old brewing buddy, gave a session on meads. And you walked into the room, and here's 12 glasses, and they poured 12 samples for you, and wow. Oh, you can actually make this stuff that tastes good. Still didn't have any idea of, the techniques.
Yeah, we didn't. We didn't have anything then. I mean, even Got Mead wasn't online until '96, so we had nothing, no books.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had Acton and Duncan, but that was kind of more wine than mead, really. I mean, for the techniques.
Yeah, and there was nothing of any worthwhile reference.
Well,
as far as I can recall.
They were doing some good stuff in the American Mead Association, and Susan's book came out in, I want to say 94, 95? Not Susan, I mean Pam.
Okay.
Pam Spence's book. Yeah, Mad About Mead.
Okay.
Yeah, and it had some pretty good recipes in it. I mean, it was a fairly straightforward approach, and of course we didn't know anything about staggered nutrient additions or anything like that then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's for sure. And those little things, along the way, we got better and better. But, once you got the staggered nutrient additions, it really got a lot easier.
God, I know, right? It's like night and day.
Yeah.
The whole pitch and weight thing was more of a gamble. You were like throwing money in the air and hoping all of it fell close to you.
Well, yeah, and then we were doing that stupid stuff. Papazian's recipes from back then, and Joy of Homebrewing. Throw all the acid in right away with the yeast,
well, and
then wonder why it takes forever to ferment.
Yeah, Acton and Duncan said the same thing. It was like first you add all your acids, then you add your honey, and it was all backwards. There's still people doing that though, because there's still people out there saying, add the acid. It's like, no, not unless it needs it.
Yeah. Wait till the end and decide if you really need that.
Yeah, and if you make your mead,
you may find that it's useless. Yeah, if you, I make an awful lot of meads that I never adjust.
Yeah, it's rare. I might back sweeten a little bit. That's about it. I rarely add acid.
Yeah. I'll back sweeten if I'm making hydromels, for example, because they're going to end up bone dry otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I first started, which was relatively recently compared to you guys back in,
because we're old, Manny. We're old.
No, I was just making beer for 20 years before I discovered mead. But the first book that I found as recently as, I guess it was maybe 2009 when I started, more or less, was the Acton and Duncan book.
Yeah, it's still out there, and everybody's got it. I mean, it's in my library. I have it.
I probably have a copy somewhere here.
Oh, yeah. I've got every book that mentions mead, including The Joy of Brewing and, Acton and Duncan. And, of course, I've got Pam's book, and I've got Ken's book, and I've got Steve's book, and I've got, let's go to really obscure ones. Let's say Cindy Renfro's A Sip Through Time. Isn't that a great book? I love that book.
Well, yeah, it's like, some of the ingredients, this might be carcinogenic.
Yeah, well, it's historical recipes, and she states right up front that you need to go in the back and look in the glossary where I detail what the ingredients are and whether or not you really ought to be using these. But she states up front that this is more of a historical reference than a mead making recipe book or a alcohol making recipe book, and then tells you, you really want to stay away from all that wormwood, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I had another one I found surprisingly in the library, and I think it was published in the late 60s, something like that. I think it was called Early American Beverages, and I don't even remember who the author was, but it's just got a lot of stuff back to the colonial days and stuff like that, all kinds of goofy things, not just
that's a good book.
Meads, but just all kinds of goofy recipes from back then.
No, they've got like syllabubs and
it's all that kind of stuff. I actually made one of these.
It's by John Hull Brown.
Yep, you're right. That sounds right. And I made one of the recipes that were in there. It was called, Beer for the Harvest Help or some goofy thing like that. And basically, it was molasses, and you started out with all your water. You threw the hops in. You boiled it for 2 hours. Strained the hops out. Boiled them in another, and saved the water. And now put those used hops in another amount of water. Boil it again. Strain them out. Now pour the molasses in. And then to give it some body, char a couple hunks of bread until it's basically black.
Mm-hmm.
And then crumble it up and throw it into the fermenter, bung it into a barrel, wait 4 days, and it's ready for the help that harvest stems. And man, I really wouldn't want to be your harvest help.
They didn't care, I mean, what you fed the peasants is what you fed the peasants then.
Yeah. But I made that for a club camping trip. It wasn't super popular.
I guess it stops the help from getting too drunk to actually help.
Probably, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
fermented molasses